So a little over a year ago, Lionel Messi lived his and, for some reason, most 10-year-old Indian boys dream of achieving the ultimate pinnacle in international football, winning the World Cup. And while since then, said 10-year-old boys have done nothing but persistently post pics and posts whenever possible of the then Paris player proudly and preciously holding the priceless piece of prize now in his possession because of performances that yes packed a few perfectly placed pings, penetrative passes, but primarily a plethora of prominently suspicious, problematic and potentially prejudicially permitted penalties his pack of pronies prefer to proactively pass past when prating. Believe it or not, for me that isn't even the annoying part, because to be fair, if you've been there for a team or player during his bad times, you deserve to enjoy his good times. However, what I do have a problem with though is these kiddies using Messi's monumental achievement to put down others. Why you gotta do that, fam? I'm of course talking about one Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, cause for one reason or another, and I'm pretty sure we all know what that reason is, despite this never having been mentioned anywhere before December 2022, winning a World Cup and scoring a World Cup knockout goal has now all of a sudden become extremely vital in GOAT debates. Ronaldo has never scored a World Cup knockout goal, they say, while Messi has 5. Yeah, but Messi didn't score a knockout goal in 4 of those tournaments either. Yeah, well, Ronaldo has never scored a knockout goal. Yeah, but one of Messi's goals was against Australia. Yeah, well, Ronaldo has never scored a knockout goal. Yeah, but Messi's last goal shouldn't have officially counted. Yeah, well, Ronaldo has never scored a knockout goal. Yeah, but the rest of Messi's goals were penalty. Will you stop making very good points? Ronaldo has never scored a knockout goal. Your average day on football Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. Cause fact is, you can't argue with stats, is what these brainless twats would say. But of course, the truth is you can. Not necessarily the authenticity, but certainly the validity. So today we are going to go through every World Cup knockout game Cristiano Ronaldo has played in, look closer into why he didn't manage to find the net, and, when applicable, compare this to the corresponding game Messi was involved in at the time. Let's roll on. 2006 last 16, Portugal 1, Holland 0. So for the younger viewers out there, this game actually has its own Wikipedia page. Title: The Battle of Nuremberg. A feisty evening that saw referee Valentin Ivanov dish out 16 yellow cards and 4 red cards. And personally, after watching Beck's curl one in against Ecuador earlier that evening, I was loving it. But guess who wasn't? Yup, Ronaldo was injured by Dutch defender Khalid Boularouz very early on and, despite trying to continue, eventually had to be substituted around the half-hour mark. And even then, somehow him not scoring in this knockout game is now used against him. Whereas, a day before that, Lionel Messi came off the bench to play for over 46 minutes against a much more defensively leaky Mexico side, injury-free, horror tackle-free, and still did fuck all. But of course, nobody remembers that. Next round, 06 quarterfinals, Portugal 0, England 0, and, well, that was about it. We were nice to them and let them play in the next round. Nothing else happened. Fuck off, nothing else happened. So Ronaldo in this game was up against a backline of Neville, Ferdinand, Terry, Cole, with Owen Hargreaves sitting in front of them. Yep, and unsurprisingly, this side kept 4 clean sheets out of a possible 5 that tournament. And somehow Ronaldo's GOAT status is now questioned since he didn't score against this backline from the wing, despite still being the most dangerous player on his team for the entirety of the 2 hours. How do you lot come up with this shit? As for Messi, well, he actually didn't play against Germany the day before. Probably should have, to be honest. But we move. 06 semi-finals. France 1, Portugal 0. So Ronaldo here was up against a French side who only conceded 1 goal from open play on the way to reaching the final. And even then, guess what? It was CR17 ahead of Figo, ahead of Henry, and even ahead of Zidane, who walked away with the man of the match, switching from wing to wing and ripping apart both Willy Sagnol and Eric Abidal. And yet, somehow this performance is now also used against him, cause this was a knockout game, you see, and he didn't score. helmets. 2010 last 16. Spain 1, Portugal 0. So Ronaldo's only knockout game in the South Africa tournament was against eventual winners and one of the greatest sides of all time, who actually conceded 0 goals in the entire knockout stages that tournament. And if you're someone who's using Cristiano not scoring in this game against him, you need professional help. Just like Messi did in his last 16 game against Mexico again 2 days prior. A team who couldn't even prevent fucking Shabalala from scoring. But they did prevent Messi, just saying. And while Ronaldo's tournament ended there, Messi and co did go on to the quarters to play Germany. And did Messi score? Did he fuck? Did he even play? Did he fuck? Oh wait, checks notes. Turns out he did play. Damn. I thought I had a good memory. 2014. So Ronaldo and Portugal were booted out in the first round of this tournament, so he didn't play in any actual knockout games, though it may be worth mentioning that his latter 2 group games were technically knockout matchups. And how did he fare? Well, he produced the best cross of the tournament in virtually the last kick of the game, which kept his country in the competition for another few days against the US, and then ended his miserable injury-laden campaign with a goal against Ghana. But still, no knockout games, let alone goals. Meanwhile, Messi played in 4, count 'em, 4 knockout games that World Cup, finding the net in precisely 0. But come on, as much as this is a bit of a parody video, I just don't feel good being this shallow. So let's go through those 4 games for some context. So Messi's first knockout tie of 2014 was against Switzerland. And you know what? Jekyll and Hyde started off really strong, but heavily struggled towards the end and actually was hyperventilating at one point. Still though slipped Di Maria through, fair enough. Second game was against Belgium. Very average, barely involved. But I could say the same thing about the entire Argentinian team that game, to be honest. Still won though. Next came Holland. And I won't lie, this was possibly the worst game of that World Cup. And I remember watching Nigeria versus Iran. And as for the final, the less said, the better. 2018 last 16. Uruguay 2, Portugal 1. Okay, fair enough. This is the first knockout game of CR7's career where you can kind of use against him, because while Uruguay were a decent side, they weren't exactly Spain 2010 or England 2006. Yeah, he couldn't stop his country from getting eliminated. Fair, that's one game. As for Messi, well, not much else to say. He did all against France, but since everything Argentina do as a rule of thumb must go through him, he was inevitably going to bag an assist or 2, especially if it's a high scoring game against a team who open up and give you space. No one ever heard that before. Trust me, don't trust stats. Qatar 2022. Here we go. The year where World Cup knockout goals became the be-all and end-all of all mankind. So, in Portugal's last 16 tie against Switzerland, Ronaldo had a few minutes in the end and scored an offside goal. Again, a nothing appearance really, can't use against him. And similarly, in Portugal's quarterfinals loss to Morocco, Captain Chris made another subs appearance from the bench where he couldn't really have done much. But this is where all these little kiddies pipe up. So, if you're one of those who genuinely think that Ronaldo coming on for 40 minutes and failing to score against Morocco is something you can use against him, as it was a World Cup knockout game and he didn't score, let me put it like this. Ronaldo at the time was in the worst form of his life, had no pre-season, was already lacking huge confidence from being benched at United, had personal and professional problems all year, got benched again in the World Cup, was 37 years old and in all-round bad shape physically and mentally, and you expect him to come off the bench and rescue the game against the best defense of the tournament in Morocco after they'd already taken the lead and decided to sit back? Well, considering he is the greatest big game player of all time, I don't blame you. But for those not willing to admit that and still wish to use CR7 failing to score against Morocco against him, well, this example is specifically for you, specially produced lemons. If so, well then you should also crucify Messi for not doing the same against Poland. Cause cast your minds back. In Argentina's third game against Poland, they needed to win to ensure qualification. And well, Messi did precisely nothing at 0-0, but then was gifted a penalty and fucked that up too. But then, after his teammate took the pressure off him by putting Argentina ahead and forcing the Polish to open up, guess what? Messi began to ball like he was prime fucking Xavi. And by the way, this was a Messi who was 2.5 years younger than Ronaldo, in hot form coming into the tournament, was facing a side who were nowhere near as defensively solid as Morocco, and yet he couldn't rescue his country. And yet, a handful of penalties and some questionable officiating later, nobody remembers that. And yet, it's Ronaldo who will forever be crucified for not doing the same in exponentially more difficult circumstances. How does it go again? Oh yes, perspective, people. And then of course, Messi goes and scores a goal against the mighty Australia, one technically illegal rebound, and 3 penalties he had all to do with winning, and all of a sudden, World Cup knockout goals become everything. How do you lot manage to walk without falling over? So to conclude... Oh, by the way, one thing. You see, due to the nature of the kind of player Messi is, he quite often leads the chart in 2 specific stats. Most take-ons completed, but also the highest number of times dispossessed. It usually goes like this. Receive ball, run past 1, run past 2, lose it to the 3rd. And basically rinse repeat until you find enough space to either shoot or thread it to a teammate. So yeah, completing the most dribbles doesn't necessarily make his performances great, but adversely, losing the ball the most often doesn't necessarily make his performances bad. This is just him. It's a Messi predicament if you like. Anyways, back to the summary. So, to conclude, here's a quick review of why Ronaldo has never scored a World Cup knockout goal. 2006 versus Holland, injured early, subbed off subsequently, while Messi played Mexico and did fuck all. 2006 versus England, up against a team who kept 4 out of 5 clean sheets and had a back 4 of Neville, Ferdinand, Terry and Ashley Cole, and he was still Portugal's best player. 2006 versus France, up against a team who only conceded 1 goal from open play until the final, and despite not scoring, he was still the man of the match. 2010 versus Spain, up against eventual winners and one of the greatest sides of all time who conceded 0 goals in the entire knockout stages that tournament, while Messi again played Mexico and failed to score. 2018 versus Uruguay, fair enough, he underperformed, and so did Messi against France. 2022, 2 helpless appearances from the bench where the games were already signed, sealed and delivered before he'd come on, while Messi scored 1 against Minnows Australia, 1 technically illegal rebound, and 3 penalties his teammates won for him. And you know what, my friend? If that's what it takes to be your GOAT, I'm sure I speak for CR7 himself when I say, keep your application, we don't want it. Boom! Right, first things first, I'm sorry, because while this certainly wasn't clickbait, the rest of this video will not be about Messi and Ronaldo's World Cup record. So if you were here just for that, I wouldn't mind if you switch off now. Because right about now, I'm going to switch on to something else. Something else a lot less important, but a lot more unpleasant? Don't know. So straight up, why do my shorts on Jamie Carragher get more views than anything else? Like, bro, it's legit baffling. Like, yeah, of course, someone like me appreciates every single view he gets. Beggars can't be choosers. But, come on. How does a 20-minute video of me ranking every single Champions League winning team not even get half the views as a 20-second clip of me ranting about a half-life who spits at children and offers out old men? Give yourselves a little more credit than that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll happily cut out more clips from that video and post them as long as you lot watch and still subscribe. That's easy, but in an ideal world, I'd rather not. But again, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Now, as far as the feedback I received regarding the clips from that video, those who do possess a simmer of intelligence understood very well why I hate this guy. And by and large, people either agreed or didn't give a f and continued to whine about Messi and Ronaldo. Fair play. But then there were others, a certain minority of basket cases who tried to make it out as if I had a hidden agenda against this guy. And these are the reasons I had these nameless and or faceless keyboardians list. Number 1, I apparently hate Jamie Carragher because I'm a Manchester United fan and am just trying to put down a former Liverpool player. Okay, first of all, that's not entirely true, but let's just play along and say that I am a United fan. Why the f would I overlook bona fide legends like Graham Souness and Steven Gerrard, who are still very active in the media, or even someone like Michael Owen with whom there's an actual trend of hating, and instead target a melted gulp who's actually scored a brace for United against Liverpool? But bro, Diego Forlan did that and they sing his name to this f***ing day. Carragher not only did that, but he did it in front of the f***ing cop. I mean, if anything, he's a United hero. Number 2, apparently I'm hating on Jamie Carragher just for the sake of views. Ugh, you f***ing Jeep knob. Might I remind you, this is the same guy who in his own book admitted to pre-planning a kidnapping and public assault, yet no one gave a fuck. And you think I'm daft enough to think that a random nobody like me whining about him online would equal views? Think before you say this stuff, man. I mean, if I wanted to slate someone for views, I would have went with either one of the two guys my channel is practically built on, Messi and Ronaldo. You know, probably the 2 greatest ever. Not a random walking punchline who spent 15 years trying to work out which way he was f***ing shooting. Number 3, I'm apparently hating on Carragher because of what he said about CR7. Okay, first of all, I made that video, and yes, believe it or not, it was just that one video, before Carragher's recent comments about Ronaldo. And 2, how f***ing petty do you think I am? Like, you know what Peter Crouch once said about the Messi and Ronaldo debate? Like, my man deadpan dropped, if you choose Ronaldo over Messi, you probably don't know football. That's probably as damning as it gets. And guess what? I love Crouchy, one of my favourite England players from that golden generation. And speaking of which, Steven Gerrard. Did you see how fast he answered when he was asked that Messi or Ronaldo question? Man said Messi's name before God even got the f***ing news.
Messi or Ronaldo? Messi. Oh, that was quick.
Mr. Gary Lineker, probably the biggest Messi fan grandpa around. And as much as I believe that his Messi standing is borderline creepy, I love listening to this man in pretty much every other footballing topic, and I'm pretty sure I've finished every single podcast episode he's ever been on. And even someone like that administration guy from TalkSport, he called Ronaldo's interview with Piers Morgan a whine-a-thon, and I hear that a lot of people don't like him, but I do. He's actually a great interviewer. And number 4, I'm apparently slating Jamie Carragher because I hate Scousers. I won't even dignify that with an explanation. My response? Go fuck yourself. And by the way, if you're a Scouser watching this, I'm sorry, but there's no chance that a little pussy like Carragher who spits at children, wants to fight middle-aged men, but tries to get his friends to fight someone his own age, threatens to bully people on social media, and indirectly glorifies gang violence, represents people from your town. No chance am I believing that. Cause not only have I known a few Scousers myself and even roomed with one a number of years ago, boy, that's a different story for a different day, but also Darren Till, Liam Smith, Tony Bellew, Steven Gerrard, people who are not only Scousers themselves, but some of them are actually quite close to Carragher himself. Yet, none of them seem anything like him and actually come across as proper men and real sound people. This guy is a bitch. Trust me, my hate for Carragher has nothing to do with the people from Liverpool or even the city itself. It's solely to do with one middle-aged individual who is such a pathetic little scum, but pretty much gets a free ride because of a combination of no one giving a fuck about him to really take notice, and him being really sneaky and clever, thus avoiding real sanctions. Let me explain. You see, Sky Sports, or even people in general who haven't gone through anything like that, usually have a very robotic way of judging someone's character. If they have a criminal record, they are bad. If they don't, they are good. If they have a history of physical violence, they are bad. If they don't, they are good. And as scummy as Carragher has been in the past, he's never really had the balls to be transparently violent, and therefore no one really notices him being a turd garage. In contrast, for example, Eric Cantona Kung Fu kicked a fan, Duncan Ferguson headbutted a defender, Ian Wright 2-footed a keeper, Graham Souness used to literally tackle through players, Roy Keane slapped up Mandem in bar fights, Wayne Rooney once flattered someone in a restaurant, and because they all received sanctions from the system and all were physically violent, they were automatically labelled as scumbags. Although if you you really look into it, Carragher is a much bigger piece of shit than any of them. But again, because he didn't have the balls to be as direct as them and react in a sincere way, and instead chose to write about planning assaults from the comfort of his home, in the eyes of the general public, he doesn't really fall into that category. Wait, tell a lie. He once tackled Nani, didn't he? Cool, big man!
I always remember when I made that really poor challenge on Nani. Fortunately, nothing happened to him. I went home that night, and that's all I could think about. It was just, I didn't want to be associated with being someone who brought another professional footballer's career maybe to an end.
Yeah, f***ing right. And I'm guessing that's why you bring that incident up whenever you come across literally any and every motherfucker who played in that game. You want people to remember that, mate. As I said before, you want people to think of you as a legit hard man who just likes to keep that side of his personality quiet. You're nearly 50, f***ing clown. And just think about that for a second, by the way. This guy is almost halfway to 100 years of age and is still calling up people and threatening to cyberbully them if they don't listen to him.
Jamie's not my favourite person in the world. He started having a go going, I'm going to be trolling your social media. I'm going to be jumping on everything that you say on social media. I was like, Jamie, I'm 54. I don't really care about you or your opinion. And if you want to jump on me on social media, you go right ahead, because...
What a sad, sad little rat.
I didn't want to be associated with being someone who brought another professional footballer's career maybe to an end.
Man, if you're one of those who even for a second believed he meant what he said there, Christ, you're a f***ing idiot. You think a guy who openly flaunts about planning a public assault in his own book would regret something like that? I mean, if anything, he probably regrets the fact that this incident took place after he wrote his book. So, you know, he wasn't able to write about almost attacking Nani in public as well. Well, getting his friends to attack Nani in public as well. Fighting on his own isn't really a Don JC thing. I get it. Now, if you're thinking, why am I wasting so much energy trying to explain myself to such a minority? Well, my friend, I am cognizant of the fact that there may be some of you who've possibly just seen a 20-second clip of me being so toxic and basically get the worst first impression possible from there. Though it somehow hasn't stopped you lot from subscribing directly from those clips. Thanks, I guess. But just saying, I'm not usually like that. But yeah, either way, if you are someone who've only seen those clips of me and did indeed get a horrific first impression, well, I hope you understand now. If not, you should probably go and watch the actual video when you have time. That'll answer all your questions. And hopefully, you'll get a much better understanding of where I'm coming from. However, if you're one of those little wimps who are actually backing Jamie Carragher, yeah, couldn't give a about you, mate. You've got another thing coming as it is. But you know what? Staying on the topic of those little wimps for a bit, this brings me to the most crucial reason as to why I'm doing this. So I've actually been privately messaged by a couple of people calling me a thug and a bully. And no, it's not because of what I said about Carragher. That stuff is just common sense. But instead, it's because of the way I responded to a couple of those aforementioned nameless and or faceless keyboardians. Wasn't much. They got abusive and I just offered to meet them in person so they can repeat what they said online since they feel so passionate about it. And apparently that makes me a prick, a bully, and a violent person. What is happening to this world? I'm sorry, but all I was doing was asking them to do what they've been doing, i.e. abuse me, but this time to my face instead of behind the screen. Cause fact is, anyone and everyone who attacks or provokes someone online in any shape or form should be prepared to do the same when asked in person. And I'm not talking about when people say which footballer is better or which fighter is crap. We've all got opinions. I'm talking about serious abuse like I've hurled towards Carragher or his pack of anonymous mini clowns have hurled towards me. If you're prepared to dig someone out to that extent online, you better be sure that you can and will repeat all of this face to face if the chance ever comes. How is this not common knowledge? Like me, if I saw Carragher randomly one day walking across the road, you know what I'd f***ing do? I'd walk on and want nothing to do with him. I ain't gonna start randomly yelling across the street. Well, to be fair, if I was in the mind frame I was when I was recording that video, then I'd probably shush. I'm joking, okay? I'm not a violent person, f
off. But yeah, nah, I'd ignore him and keep walking. But this is where the difference is. If there was ever a scenario where interaction was compulsory and he asked me to my face if I was the same guy who did say all of those things, not only would I confirm, I'd double fucking down. And guess what? It's not cause I'm machismo personified or the ultimate alpha male. Believe me, I'm not. No motherfucker who writes poems about men running around in shorts can ever lay claim to any of that. And it's not cause man's from a rough area and that's how we do things in the ends. I mean, yeah, I am from somewhere like that, but that's nothing to brag about. Grow the up. And likewise, it ain't cause I'm a big man, it ain't cause I'm a tough man, and it ain't cause I'm Superman. But simply put, I am a man. And as a man, I strongly believe that you should refrain from spouting personal abuse online, particularly if you know that you won't be able to do the same in person. And again, how is this not common knowledge? Like, I won't lie, I actually once fell out with a good friend of mine and a kid who I can only describe as his sidekick, who by the way is very much a part of that nameless and or faceless Twitter user category, over something like this. My mate and I got into an argument online where he repeatedly kept provoking me despite me telling him to stop, with his response being, I'll do what I want. So eventually I said, okay then, since you are so confident, why don't we meet in person and we'll see if you still do what you want. And hey, guess what? All of a sudden, I was a prick, I was a bully, I was a violent person, I was fucking Saddam's descendant, while they were just innocent little victims caught up in all this. What a joke. Now this was about 2 years ago, and the closest I got to something like that since then was when I called out that hipster guy from HITC when he randomly became Billy Big Bollocks and started calling out anything and everything that moved. I challenged him, saying something like he'd wet himself if he ever had to repeat any of this in person to the individuals he was digging out online. Something tells me I'm not wrong. And while he himself didn't really say too much in response, there was this lady, one of his followers, who stood up for him and, well, made it very clear that she disagreed with my philosophy, calling me a big, muscly, meat-headed man-child. Ooh, alliterations. Why idiot talks like that anyway? But that's the thing. As surprised as I was, I genuinely brushed off my friend, his sidekick, HITCU, and his backup all as one-off individual cases. I still refuse to believe that abusing someone online, knowing that you will never have the guts to say it in person, was just an extremely normal mindset. Until recent times. Because it turns out that this indeed is a very common mindset among users of social media. Well, nameless and or faceless users of social media. I'm not joking. Practically all of them are anonymous in one way or another. But still though, come on man. I'm sorry, but I'm always gonna be with the school of thought of, if you wanna abuse someone online, be prepared to say it to their face, if need be. Or be prepared to admit that you're a pussy and would never have the balls to do so. I mean, as harsh as that sounds, there genuinely is nothing wrong with being a pussy as long as you're honest about it. Like bro, I myself am scared of so many things you have no idea. And you know what? That's cool. What isn't cool though, is giving it all that big talk online, and then when you're asked to meet face to face, you either play the victim card like, oh my god, I can't believe you're offering to fight over some online conversations, what a prick. Or spin the narrative in a way that makes the other person sound crazy. Oh wow, you wanna meet in person? Clearly you have issues. I hope you get the help you need. Because let's face it, if you're someone who does either one of those two things, or both, the reality probably is that you just came to the realization that you have monumentally fucked up and are now just shitting bricks. That would never be okay with me. Like, don't get me wrong, I do clearly have issues and can do with a bit of help, but that's for completely different reasons. Not because I expect you to be the same person in person as you are online. Like, come on. Does it not make you man feel even a bit ashamed that you're finding comfort in being behind the screen? Well, it would eat me up, man. Now, if you're wondering right about now, well then if you aren't a violent person, then why didn't you just block those idiots who were abusing you and backing Jamie Carragher instead of asking to meet them in person? Because that would have ended in a fight. Come on, bro. Wake up. You really think grown men who go out of their way to back a little pussy bitch like Jamie Carragher would ever have the balls to meet face to face? Get real. Believe me, I know the type of person Jamie Carragher is, or any grown man who'd back him are. They're not the type to meet face to face. That's not their thing. Otherwise, you actually think I wanna fight? Have any of you man actually ever been in a proper fight? Do you have any idea how long it is? Bear punching and stuff. And yes, usually I just delete the comments. I don't block anyone. But yeah, as I was saying, the reason why I offered out those little clowns who were abusing me in defense of Carragher wasn't because I wanted to fight, but it's because I knew there was never gonna be a fight to begin with. And therefore, it was just a convenient way to show up some keyboard warriors. Don't lie, you'd get a kick out of doing that as well. Cause my friends, I repeat, unless it's someone who's close to him or a member of his family, in which case it's completely different, I know the kind of characters I'm dealing with when it comes to grown men who go out of the way to back someone like Jamie Carragher. They're never gonna meet in person. In one sentence, the keyboard is their comfort zone. And just like Clownager's refusal to attempt management, these guys ain't ready to go out of the comfort zone either. They ain't that guy. Like, there aren't many things in life that I do very well, but I'm certainly A, extremely self-aware, my hair is beautiful, suck a dick, and B, I am a very good judge of character, and best believe, I smell a little bitch from a mile away. And once again, it doesn't make me a he-man or anything. Again, I write poems, but it also doesn't make me a prick, a bully, and certainly not a violent person. It just makes me me. And my friends, whether you agree or disagree, in the bizarre world of social media, almost every time without fail, it sure does beat indifference. But yeah, stop calling me a violent person before I kick your f***ing head off. And that is that, people. If you've got something nice to say, I welcome you. If you think my outlook is wrong, I welcome your opinion. But if you're looking to be abusive, just remember what I told you. And if you're looking to back Carragher, just remember, integrity is still a concept. Till next time, take care of yourselves, Happy New Year, and as always, we keep rolling.